Hi guys, and welcome to this course in Autodesk Fusion 360. So first of all, this is just a bit of an introduction. What is Fusion? Well, Autodesk is probably the market leader in CAD design software, 2D and 3D. Some of you may know AutoCAD, some of you may have done my previous course on AutoCAD. That it is 3D. It's primarily started as a 2D package, and CAD kind of has evolved from there. We then saw things like Autodesk Inventor and SolidWorks, which was the mechanical and production 3D software. And these are kind of very complex industry level courses. We do have a course on Inventor if you want to check that out, but these are very much aimed at the top of the market. And it was identified that there is a position somewhere in between. So with the advent of things like 3D printers and home CNC machines, that kind of thing, people were able to manufacture small components at home using these kind of 3D printers, things like that. And as a result, people wanted to design their own items. They didn't need the expense and complexity of something like SolidWorks or Inventor just to do simple items. And also a lot of the way the files are shared and things in Inventor, it suits kind of big companies. It's not really, or it wasn't really suited to the kind of file sharing that goes on between home users on the internet and things like that. So there was a kind of gap in the market for some software for hobby users to create things for various hobbies or various small items. And Fusion 360 basically does that job very, very well. Okay, so let's have a brief look at the software. So I've got a window open here, and I've got a kind of easy model, a basic model that I've created. And this is, if you imagine a circuit board, something like a Raspberry Pi or an Arduino. Okay, the idea is that you would create this plastic enclosure. You'd have these upstands which would match the holes on the circuit board, and you would screw your circuit board into these. These openings would be for things like a USB socket or whatever. It's just a generic one. We're going to learn how to do this in this course. I'm sure you've seen these available in the shops, or maybe people swapping 3D print files, but this is pretty simple to make using this software. But it is a perfect example of what you would use Fusion 360 for. You got something like a Raspberry Pi, you want to put it somewhere, you want to make an enclosure, you go into Fusion, you have a few dimensions that you've measured off the circuit board of the hole centers, things like that, and you quickly knock this up in Fusion, you send it to your 3D printer, and there you go. You haven't had to buy anything, order anything, you can create your own products. You can put maybe a logo on there, you could put some fancy design on there if you wanted, but it's just a good example of something that you would use Fusion 360 for. And by the way, I'm not going to keep saying Fusion 360, I'll just call it Fusion. It's easier. And yeah, it's fairly simple, to be honest. But you can do a lot more complex objects from this in Fusion, by the way. This is, I mean, you will go down the road of, and this is the important thing when you're learning any software. Once you've learned it, keep using it and keep kind of pushing your skills a bit, pushing your boundaries a bit. Don't just make easy things. If you don't know how to do something, find out and kind of push your skills, and that's how you get good at using this kind of software. You just, every time you gradually make it a bit more difficult. Don't be afraid to do something because you don't know how to do it. This course will teach you all the basics, but it will also teach you how to find out more, you know, I can't teach everything. All this course will be hours and hours long and everyone will get bored, but you will be confident enough with the software that you can use these tools and know how they work to use your imagination and take from your imagination onto the screen, which is what a lot of CAD is, to be fair. It's just being able to take that object and thinking, how best could I model that? Most objects, when you look at them, you can break them down into cubes, cylinders, pipes, tubes, that kind of thing. It's just a complex shape is just made out of basic shapes, and that's what 3D modeling is. Okay, so let's look at the software itself. Now, things like AutoCAD and Inventor, as I said, it's very complex in terms of, or it can be complex in terms of a file. You can have XREFs, you can have parts and model files which you have to keep together, and that's because the software is installed on your machine. Okay, now with Fusion it works differently. It's basically online. You are working online, your projects are stored online, you can share files online, and that makes it so much simpler for hobby and home user, because you don't need to worry about, have I sent somebody all the files. A complex Inventor assembly, for instance, or SolidWorks, you would have to send numerous files and they could be too big to email, all that kind of thing. Fusion makes it nice and easy by being online. You do need an account. I'll go through that in the next chapter. It is free, which is probably the best thing about this software. There is a license that allows you, and I'm going to say when this course was recorded in 2020, there was a license available, which is a hobby license or something like that. And basically, it allows anyone who's using it as a hobby, so you're not making money, you're not selling the objects, to use it for free. But also, if you are a small business, if you are selling your designs, as long as your turnover is under $100,000 a year, it's also free. And this is great. This is for anyone like me who's been around in the CAD industry for years. They'll remember when we only really had AutoCAD, and AutoCAD was something like £4,000 British pounds a year. Or sorry, for the latest version. You didn't buy it yearly then, you just bought the latest version. So if someone said, can you do this? I want to pay you £500. Well, okay, but the software is going to cost me £4,000, so what do I do? You know, but things have changed now. Even with AutoCAD, you can just basically rent it monthly on a subscription. But with Fusion, it's totally free, which is great. And in the next chapter, we'll go through how you can get it and set it up on your machine.